Good morning. Let's get started. So yesterday we were in the middle of login. So I've enabled authentication in the API. So if you try to access the URL of the API, we will not be able to. This is a protected route. So it says unauthorized. Now a token needs to be issued in order to make a request or in order to get access to that endpoint. Anyway, so that actually breaks our application because products assume that there is no need to send the token. But this time I've enabled the authentication. It's breaking. It says 401 unauthorized clearly. So that's why this route doesn't load up. That's okay. Now, anyhow, we are in the process of building a login page. So we will actually, to some extent, we have completed even this login page. Email at gmail.com and password was admin, I believe. And say login. See, we are getting the token. So the next challenge that we have is to save this token so that when I navigate to products page, I can easily send across this token for each and every product route. So as I'm getting some response, let's go to the code in user service in login component. Once I get the response, this is where I would like to save my token. So the best thing that you can do to save is inside the browser. So you can use local storage. So HTML5, pretty much all the browsers today, they have this local storage. Here it is. You have session storage also. It's up to you where you want to save. Both work the same way, but the only difference is session storage will be removed, whatever the data that you have in this storage, once you close the browser. Once the session, once the session is gone and your data is lost. Local storage on the other hand, unless you remove it explicitly, it's going to stay there forever. So I want to go with local storage, but for some reason, if your business demands session storage, you can pretty much use that one. So let's go back here. I want to save it to the local storage. So I can directly use local storage because local storage is a global variable. So if you come back to console and say local storage, it's a global variable. Okay? We have local storage. And if you want to get the items, you can say local storage dot get item to get some item. Yeah, I don't think it is available, so it gives you null. If you want to set something, you can say local storage dot set item, key and value. So this works like a key value pair. The value is going to be always a string. So local storage saves the data in a string format. So I'm going to say local storage dot set item. The key is going to be, I'll say token, and the value is going to be response dot token because it comes. So if you want to save the entire user object, you can save it because sometimes you may have his role and all those things. But here I have just token and that token is enough. I'm just saving the token. But if you want to again show the name of the user whenever he opens the page, probably you may want to save even his name. Okay, with that in place, now go back to our local storage. Okay, see there are no key and value pairs here. It's empty. The database is empty. I'm going to make a request, a login request, and the login is successful. See now I have a token. A token is set. Now this token remains there unless I remove it. So now my requirement is take this token and send it to the API. Whenever a web service request is made, send it to the API. Let's see how we can do that. First thing, I'll go to my product interceptor because we are dealing with interceptor rather than modifying the each and every request. So I have hard coded this token. There is no need to hard code this token. And the token actually comes from the local storage. So I'm going to say local storage dot. This is a global variable, so we don't need to import anything. I'll say get item, and the item name is token. Just like a dictionary, your local storage works. And rather than setting this hard-coded string, I'm going to say token. Save this, come back, go to products, go to network. See, now our products are loading because we are passing a valid token. If you see authorization, we're passing a valid token as part of this request. So that's how the login works. Even though this login is not seamless, it has some quirks in it. Let's fix them. First thing, as soon as my login is successful, as soon as I save the data, I should navigate back to some other page. I'll say router dot navigate. To which page I want to navigate, it's again depends on your business. At this moment, I want to navigate it to products page. So okay, let's give it a try. It's signing in and it's taking me to the products page. That is well and good. And one more thing is this login should not be shown. Once I'm logged in, this login should not be shown. And let's come back and see the code once. And this is something like you're dealing with database, and this is part of a component class, and this is kind of ugly. So I don't want this to be here. Rather, I want to delegate this responsibility to user service or auth service, whatever you name it. So I've named it user service. Usually auth service is the most common name. So I'll say user service dot save token, and I'll just pass the token. And this save token method doesn't exist, so I'll go ahead and create one. Hit F12 here. That should take you to the definition. So I'm going to say save token, and this gives me a token, which is string. And I'm going to say local storage dot set item. This returns nothing. So void. Okay, why is there ng? Okay. So at the time of getting the token also, you can write a method, but that's okay. Anyhow, we are in the interceptor, we are accessing it. But it's a good idea that you have a get token method and refactor that code as well. Okay. So now the question is, I want to know whether the user is logged in or not. So one way I'll know that is logged in or is authenticated or something like that, whatever name it is. So I'm going to return if local storage dot get item token, if token is available or not. Okay, I want this to be a boolean, so there is an error, it's a string. So if it is defined, I'll return true, else I'll return false. So this tells me whether the user is logged in or not. I can use this service to show or hide my go to login component.ts, not login, that's my bad. Let's go to header component. When the header component is loaded, I want this check to be made. In the constructor, I want to have my user service injected And I'll say this dot is logged in equals to user service dot is logged in. I want to know whether the user is logged in or not. Okay, that's a function. And this variable or property can be easily used to show or hide this view. So what I want to do is I'll use the ng if. I'll say if he is not logged in, show login button. If he is logged in, show logout button. So in the logout, what I want to do, just this is going to be a button. So I'll have a click event, change this to a button. This doesn't necessarily has to be a link because there is no navigation involved here. And this click event is going to be logout or just say on logout. Usually I go with this because this is an event. This is the naming convention I tend to follow. I on logout. Again, I don't want to say local storage dot remove item, all those things. What I'm going to do is I'll say this dot user service dot logout. I want to delegate all the responsibility related to user authentication to this service. I don't want to do anything inside my component class. So this logout is missing. So let's go ahead and create one. And logging out is nothing there because we don't have any sessions on all those things. So this happens only on client side. I'll just get rid of that token. Or you can call the endpoint to log out. It's up to you. So here I just want to remove that token. Local storage dot remove item. You'll say token. So if you don't want to do this on the client side, if you want this to happen on the server side, you should invalidate the JSON Web Token on the Node API side. Again, it's again purely your requirement basis. If you want to be safe, you just want to invalidate the token. You can take this to server, make a web service call, and invalidate the token. Unfortunately, we don't have that endpoint there. But if you want to do it, take that as an assignment and try to do it. Here, I'm just removing the token, and that should, once I removed it, again, it's going to be false. Is logged in is going to be false. And I want user to go back to login page. So I'll say router dot navigate this dot router dot navigate. Probably it's login route. Yes. So that's our login component. I mean header component. So the token is available. I'm able to access it. I'll say I'll go to application local storage here and I'll say logout. The token is removed. Now the login button shows up. I should not be able to access these products. So there is a bug in this code. So it's breaking because you're trying to access something which doesn't exist. So you need to fix that. Go to product interceptor. Here is the bug. The token is not available, but you're accessing as if it is there. So you need to handle that. You'll say if token is defined, then only do all these things. Otherwise, don't. But again, there has to be a return, right? So if token is not defined, you will say request. What is a request? It's an old request like this. Hopefully this should fix the issue. Let's give it a try. So the token is not available now. Go to say products. Okay. Now we are getting anyway 401. That's fine, and I'm not being navigated. But that's how you handle it. If token is not available, don't clone the request. Just pass it as it is, because not every request may need the token. So you may need to add some more logic depending on your request, because some web services may be, some calls may be like public endpoints. So in that case, you may need some more logic to handle that case. Okay. Now the next thing what I wanted to show you is, okay. So here I'm saying go to application, local storage. Here I can definitely add a token. So this is an invalid token. But for this, let me just refresh the application. So see, it's showing me logout button. I'll go to products page, and this doesn't load it. So this token is there doesn't necessarily mean that the token is valid. So, or the token might have expired. You might have saved it yesterday and you're trying to access it. So your client application will not aware that the token is expired. So it's just that we are checking whether the token is there or not. And we are assuming that if the token is there, he's authenticated. But that's not actually true. We have a check on the server side. So even though we have a invalid token here, the server will not give access to its resources. It's just that we want to enhance the user experience, so we are assuming some things. And the response that you get from the web service call is 401. And you can catch this and redirect back user to the login page. So let me get rid of that token, or just try to log in and that token would be overridden. Here it is. Now just clean this up. Go to application. We have our token and it is a valid token. So when I say login, I'm able to access this route. It doesn't make much sense to see the login page again once, even though I'm already logged in and still I'm seeing this login page. It's very easy to handle this in your login page. So go to login component. Probably in the constructor itself, you'll try to check whether if he's logged in, there is no need to be on this page. You'll say this dot router dot navigate. Navigate him to this some other page. Navigate whatever page it is. So now here it goes to the login page and it comes to products page because we are logged in. So I'll remove the token and I'll go to login page. Now I should be staying there. There should not be any redirects. Here it is. This seems to be fine. Okay. So with that in place, now looks like we are done with the login page and all that. So we'll learn another concept related to routing, that is a route guards. So there are as many as 6 route guards, I believe 5. So these are, I've written here. So these are the route guards. As you can see that they guard the routes. So rather than loading the component directly, you'll check for something even before loading it. You'll check for some condition whether to load the route or not, whether to load the component or not. So can activate child, can deactivate, can load, and resolve. So these are 5, and resolve, we have already seen this. And it is also part of route guard. If you go to app router module, we have already seen that resolve. JavaScript is always nothing but a route resolver. So we are fetching the data beforehand. Even before this route is loaded, we are fetching the data and then we are loading the route. We'll see a couple of other such as can activate. Now I want to I want to activate this route only if the user is authenticated. Assume that this is simple one. We'll deal with this one. I want to load this contact component only if user is authenticated. So can activate goes something like this. This is an array, so there can be any number of route guards. And what is this element inside array? It's going to be a injectable service or provider. So let's go ahead and create one. So I'm going to go to shared folder and create, say, product guard.ts. So this is a service. Some people like to use even service as a suffix. It's again personal choice. So it's an injectable, definitely. And here, I don't want to again write the logic, all those things. I already have somewhere written in the user service to check whether the user is authenticated or not. So it's again foolishness to duplicate the logic. I already have it. I'll get the injection here. Now this route guard implements can activate. So can activate is an interface, and I want to implement that. And this is part of core library, or I'm sorry, it's a router because it is related to router stuff. And there is one error because this route guard needs to have one can activate method. So it gives you like the router state, all those things. It can return a promise, it can return an observable, or it can return a true or false value. So we don't have a promise observable, but if for some or the other reason you have to make a web service call and return that, you can return it using this can activate. I don't need this route information, state information. If at all you need it, you can. Now clean this up. So what I'm want to do is I'll say this dot user service dot is logged in, whether he's logged in or not. If he's logged in, I'm saying can activate is true, or if not, it's going to be false. So it's a convention to have constructor on top, even though that is not strictly needed. And this interface is also strictly not needed. I can just remove it. But what happens is if you have a typo and there is no way that you will know that you have written it something wrong. But if you have an interface, see, there is an error. Somebody is giving you some feedback saying that, okay, you made some mistake. So if everything is good, you won't have that. So JavaScript doesn't have any interfaces, but it's a good idea that you implement them in TypeScript. So this is our route guard and this is an injectable. So the next thing that should come to your mind is adding it to the module. So add it to the module. I'll say route guard. Or probably it's product guard. Save this. And the last thing I need to do is go to app router module and say can activate product guard. That's it. So before even again redirecting you to this contact component, this can activate would check whether to activate that route or not. Remember, I'm on my contact page. That uh, guard is applied on contact page. So I'll go to my home page, and from that contact, say I'm able to navigate it. So let's have a kind of a console log statement so that you'll know that actually this code is being executed. Go to console. Looks like it's there. Go to home. Each time it checks for that guard. Okay, now what happens if I go to home page and remove that token, which means I am kind of trying to log out, or I don't need to even manually remove it. I can say log out and clean this up. Okay, lazy loading issue. Anyway, just close this. Go to contact page now. So it checks for the guard and nothing happens. It doesn't redirect you. It doesn't take you to that contact page because that route or this method has written false. So that's how you protect your routes. So one thing is if you want, actually it is not giving any feedback, or usually if you want to give some feedback you can in a alert box or in message box or whatever it is, and that code goes here. So if you'll say var is logged in a variable and just get it, if is logged in is true, finally you'll return this is logged in no matter what it is. And before that you may want to make a check. So if is logged in is true, so we had a router injection I've removed somewhere. I'll say router. I can navigate user to different page. Say that's it, the home page. I want to take him to the home page if user is not logged in, like that. So this kind of login checks you can have, this kind of routing or redirects or even error message you can throw from this can activate route. So let me go to home page or just go to login page. Try to go to contact page. See, I'm back to home page. Or some kind of, again, error messages may make sense. Again, it's purely business related. So whatever makes sense in your project, you should do that. So I'm just showing you how you can do that. That's it. Okay, so that's your can activate route. Now the other thing we have is can activate child. So we have some child routes. So I'm not going to show you it because it's pretty much same. We have children for some route. If you notice here, we have children. So this route tells whether a child can be activated or not based on some certain condition. You put your condition inside your product card or some other file, and you will define whether a child can be activated or not. And then we have can deactivate. We'll see that in a minute. Then can load is similar to can activate, but the only difference is it will not load the component if the value is false. If the guard is returning false, then the route guard will not load the component. On the other hand, can activate actually loads it. So this probably makes more sense for lazy loaded modules. We have one lazy loaded module here. So here, probably you don't want to again load your stuff if the route card is returning false. So pretty much everything remains same except that the name of the method changes. So whatever you want to do it, you implement its respective implementation, respective interface, and then you have a method. So you can have more than one, such as can deactivate like this. Even though this is okay, but it's kind of, again, you are kind of breaking a single responsibility principle. What I would like to do is rather than having everything inside inside this file, I would like to keep it in separate files. Can activate one class, can deactivate another class. To keep things simple, I'm just going with this one, but definitely you can refactor it to have a separate file for each guard. I'm making this one generic, but try to make it a specific guard for specific purpose. Let's see what's the issue here. It says, okay, it's a generic type. Just say any, and you can implement this can deactivate. So we have component again, everything, every guard returns either a Boolean value, observable, promise, and that observable and promise has to be resolved to Boolean value. So even when you are making a web service call, that web service call should also return a Boolean value. Promise should also return a Boolean value. I don't think I need all of these things. Just get rid of them. You have component reference also. For some reason, if you want to access it, the name of the component or its details, you can. So here, can deactivate is somebody has filled some form and they want to navigate to some other page. So let's do one thing. Go to products. Okay, it looks like I don't have the token. Go to new product. And here, somebody has modified this form and they want to navigate away from this component. So in that case, you want to have this can deactivate route. Tell that, saying that confirm is a global function which shows a message box. So are you sure you want to something like this? Say this, and on which one I need to implement this can deactivate is I'll go to app router module, and on the product slash new, I want to have this can deactivate. Can deactivate. This is going to be a array because you can have more than one guards. Product guard, maybe another guard, and so on and so forth. So if all of them yields to true, then only this route would be activated. Otherwise, it won't. So I'll say can deactivate. Again, I'll go with the same product guard. And the can deactivate method of this guard would be executed when I try to navigate away from this page. So I'm not putting any logic here to check whether the form is actually modified or not. I'll leave that to you as an assignment. See, it's not going to be straightforward. So how can you come up with a solution for this? Because you have a component reference in this can deactivate method. So if you can grab the state of a component, you can check that. Here, this is going to give you always confirm. But that's not, again, a great user experience because I didn't modify anything. If I try to navigate away, it's going to show me, are you sure you want to leave unsaved changes? Strictly speaking, there are no unsaved changes. So when this message should be shown, when I modify it, I touch this form. So we know there is a touched property. We know there is a dirty property. So can you try to see if you can use those properties and come up with a better solution for this? Now this makes sense. Are you sure you want to leave unsaved changes? That makes more sense. So when I say cancel, it doesn't do anything. But when I say okay, it actually navigates back me to home page. So that's can deactivate route. So can activate, can deactivate, and resolve. Three we have seen. And can load is kind of again whether you want to load the component or not. This would be decided here, and which is similar to can activate with just one gotcha. And can activate child is we have child routes whether we want to activate the children or not based on certain value. This is again similar to can activate. It's the only difference is for child routes. Yep. Any questions with respect to these route guards? I think that wraps up uh, entire routing. Probably took 3 sessions. So definitely routing is a complex stuff and it's hard to get it right for the first time. Okay. So if there are no questions, let's go ahead and let me give you some sort of assignments. This app is doing good, But again, there are some here and there some little bit of quirks. So if I say application, go to local storage and remove this, and actually nothing happens here, and user gets an error message in the console, but nothing happens. Is I'm getting this error message just because I'm console logging. If you go to product detail component or any other component wherever I'm making web service call, I'm actually doing a console.log error. So this error message will also have a status code. So that status code is going to give you what actually happened, whether it is 401 or 400 or something else. With that status code, try to give a user some sort of message here saying that, okay, this is wrong with your application. We have everything in place, just that you need to check the status code. This error.status will give you the status code. Error is an object. So this object will have status text and status code. So you try to handle that. So that actually enhances the user experience. But because now this doesn't really give any messages, or it's lacking the interactivity. So that's the assignment. So I would ask you to spend some time and try to fix the flow. This is the issue regarding with respect to flow. Even though the application is technically working fine, but there are some gotchas here and there. Okay. So go back to product interceptor one more time. Here, one more thing is I'm just modifying the request. This doesn't necessarily mean that I can only modify the request. I can even modify my response. So you have something like do operator. I'm just going to do console.log in response interceptor. So I can even modify the response. So there is one error. It is because I'm missing the operator. So you need to import this operator manually. RxJS add operator to, and that should fix the issue. Okay, let's go ahead and first log in. Now we have our token. Now go to any dot, see you have in response interceptor. So go to products one more time. You have inside your interceptor like that. So it is going to intercept your response. So you'll have your response. If you want to attach something to this response, you can. If you want to remove something from the response, you can. Such as maybe this response may have status code and all those things. You don't like them, strip them off here. Or you don't want to send all the technical stuff to the component, you strip them off here. Okay, so we are modifying the request. We can modify the response. Even we can catch the errors. So you'll have a catch operator, and inside catch operator, you'll have error. So here I'll just say console.log in error. And finally, you will throw the observable.throw error. So you can modify the error. If you don't like to send the entire technical error message to the component, you may want to send only information that is needed, such as an error occurred or something like that. You can throw it. So why do you need to throw it? Because this interceptor returns an observable. If you don't throw it, it's not going to be returning an observable when it enters a catch block. So you can rethrow the observable. So this catch operator is missing. Let's import that. RxJS add operator catch. So this is the file location of that catch file. Okay, what's wrong with it? Okay, so this is how you write. You throw it, and the throw operator needs to be imported as well. So you'll say RxJS add its part of observable folder, and you say throw like this. So whenever there is any error, you'll get to execute this one, or this code will execute, and you can modify if at all you want to. So I'm not actually modifying the response, nor I'm modifying the error, but this is just to show you you can have an interceptor doing all these things for you, modifying the request, modifying the response, and even modifying your error like this. So I'm gonna push these changes. Okay. So we have few more minutes, and again, this is the topic that I wanted to discuss next is directives, and I don't think I'll be able to complete in another 15 minutes. So we'll see some other topic which can be done, finished in next 10 minutes. So we'll see an interesting topic, even though I'm discussing way beyond of the schedule, but that's okay. It shouldn't interfere. That is deployment. So how to deploy this application? You can use any cloud provider. So first thing, you will build the application, and you may use Jenkins or Travis or Bamboo or whatever build system you want to use for building this. If you are setting up a continuous integration, it's pretty much your choice. And you can, if you want to try it out, there is Travis CI, which pretty much to some extent it's free. You can play around with it. But anyhow, I'm just building it manually. I don't want to set up continuous integration for this. So there are various ways that you can deploy this application, and number of ways. One thing, if you're a fan of Java, you can go with Tomcat application. If you're a fan of PHP, you can deploy it on PHP application. Or I mean, Apache server, IAS server is there, and whatnot. Pretty much, even you can deploy this on your Node.js server also. So you know how to create a HTTP server, Node server. You can deploy it there as well. You can use Azure, AWS, Heroku, and so on. So there is like limitless, and there is Docker also. The cool thing. So what we will see is Nginx. So which is kind of cool thing. So first thing you need to download Nginx. Go to Nginx. It's free. It's not this. Nginx. Just say Nginx download and click on this. Try to download for your environment, whichever environment you're using. So I'm using Windows. I'll download this one and extract it. This is going to be a zip. So I already have this downloaded and I have extracted it in C drive. Go to C drive and put it somewhere on the C drive. Location doesn't really matter. Here it is. So to start this server, you can open a command prompt and say start nginx.exe. This will start your Nginx server. So Nginx is started. Now you can run this as a service anyhow. Now you can say localhost. It by default runs on 8080 or 80 port number 80. But if you want to change it, you can definitely change it. Go to Nginx, go to conf. So you'll have all the configuration and you have Nginx conf. Open this. It's all text based. You'll have this object and looks like it is running on 9000. I've changed it probably yesterday or day before yesterday. Say localhost 9000. If you see this page, which means your Nginx server is running. This is a basic website and this says that your Nginx server is up and running. Now come back. So ng build should have produced one dist folder for you. So this dist is nothing but the hard work of your outcome of your hard work. So you have worked on your project and outcome is this. This dist is enough for the deployment. That's all. So it has everything. You don't need to take anything from the source code. So just copy this dist folder and take it to the Nginx and go to HTML and paste it inside HTML. So this is where your uh, applications reside. So I want to rename it to products. It's nothing but this is a products app. That's one thing that I want to do. And I want to stop the Nginx server because I'm going to modify some of the configuration files. Okay, I don't see anywhere. Anyway, that's okay. So let's go to our configuration file. Here, what I want to do is I want to have another server. So there can be any number of applications. So I want my application to run on 9001 port. And the name of the server is going to be localhost again. And these are all comments. I can get rid of them. And then location is HTML/products is the name of the application. And the default file is index.html. So this is one configuration that I need to make for Nginx. And it's all, there is no UI available here. It's all file based and it's very simple. So if you have 10 applications, you'll have 10 server configurations in your nginx.conf file. Save this. And I believe I need to restart my Nginx server. Let's try. Go to 9001. If everything goes good, we should see application. Looks like it's not. It's broken. Okay, it's not actually loading HTML/products. Start is not there. Okay, let's see what's the command to restart. I don't exactly remember. Say restart Nginx Windows. Okay, looks like server is not allowed. Looks like it's loading, but that doesn't. Yeah, now finally we got it up and running. So this is how you deploy it, and it is the Nginx is running on my local machine. So you are seeing the local host, but again, if you have a domain name and a server, definitely you can have your again a remote application running. So let me try to log in and make sure everything is working fine. Say I'm able to log in and everything I'm able to pass. So this is how you take your application to the production. And pretty much whatever I've done manually, you may be doing in your organization automatically. So as I said, you'll have Bamboo or other build tools, which actually goes and modifies this config file. If it doesn't exist, they add this automatically and they reload the Nginx and they do all these things are automatically done. But if you want to do it manually, again, it's not a lot of job, lot of task. Automation is always best, but if you want to give it a try, simple stuff, definitely you can. So probably I forgot to give you an introduction of Nginx. Nginx is actually widely used for serving static pages. So your application, this is a static page. Index.html or whatever content we have is kind of a static page. And after once the index.html is loaded, Angular will take over. So for that kind of stuff, for the most part, front-end applications are deployed using Nginx. It is free. There is an enterprise level, enterprise version is also available, which is paid. But again, for our purpose, free up community edition is enough. And Nginx can also be used for deploying PHP applications. It acts like a reverse proxy for authentication or something like that, and it is very fast. It is very popular. So that's a little bit overview of Nginx. And for the most part, all the front end applications are nowadays deployed on Nginx. So that's how you deploy it. So let me again summarize whatever I've done with respect to Nginx. First thing, I've downloaded it, re- extracted it, and then my port 80 is not available. My IIS server is running on port 80. By default, Nginx runs on 80. So it's like there is a collision. So I modified this to run on 9000. It can be any port, and that port has to be free. So I modified this configuration, and my Nginx started up and running. Then I have built my Angular application using ng build. I'm taken the outcome, which is dist folder, and put inside HTML. This is where by default your application resides, inside HTML folder of Nginx. But if you want to change it, you have that option. You can change the root to some other folder. So usually this is okay to put it here inside HTML folder, and I've pasted entire application there. That's it. After that, this is a new application, so I need to have one server configuration for this application. So if you have tens of application, you'll have tens of configurations, and it runs on a separate port. Name of the server is again localhost. If you have a domain name, that would have been written here, and then you specify the location and the default page. So this is the default page, means whenever user doesn't give any page, this would be by default loaded, and index.html is our default page, so I'm just going with that. Index.html, we don't have it, but that's okay. You can get rid of that or you can keep it. So that's how you deploy to Nginx. As we are talking about this deployment is not actually doesn't work with production, or even if it works, it's going to perform horrible because of this size. If you notice, this vendor bundle is of 3.73 MB. So you know how much time it takes to download, because in the end, this bundle is going to be downloaded by the browser. So each time, whenever for the first time user request for this bundle, this would be downloaded, and after that subsequently this would be cached. Unless this vendor bundle is changed, there is no need to download it again. But for the first time, the initial load time is going to be horrible. So for production, we won't deploy this site like this. Rather, we'll use another configuration, minus minus prod, for prod. And for this prod, so if you notice here, we have a lazy load module chunk, one thing. We have the bundle for polyfills, that is to make sure that our application works on the older browsers. And then we have CSS styles. And then vendor bundle is nothing but the entire Angular. So whatever modules we have used so far would be bundled as part of vendor bundle. So let it run. We have couple of more minutes. I may take a little more extra time. I just want to finish this deployment stuff. So this minus minus prod actually bundles this your code and compresses it, or you can call it minifies it or uglifies it. So there is a concept of minification and uglification. Minification, what it does is, in JavaScript, this code is same as this code without spaces. Here you have a lot of spaces. Here you don't have any spaces. So this process is called minification. Your source code will be taken, and all this wherever necessary, the white spaces would be removed by your Webpack, or say for now Angular CLI. So what this means is var x equals to 10. Here you cannot remove this white space. Here you can't say var x equals to 10. Doesn't make much sense. Again, it's going to throw an error. So there has to be space. So all these things would be taken care by your Angular CLI to reduce the space. And then uglification. There is another process by the name uglification. So wherever you have long variable names, my long variable name, something like this. So this has probably 15 characters in it. So that would be changed to A, something like this. So it uglifies your variable names, or it uglifies your parameter names, all these things. So that eventually reduces your side. If you notice your vendor bundle, I don't think it is generated. Okay, so there is one error because I have my lazy2 component and it is not part of any module. So that's why it is throwing an error. So let's go to lazy module.ts and try to add it to the declaration. It's like it is saying that that component exists for no reason, because it's not part of any module. So that's why it is throwing. If you notice here, the sizes are reduced to a great extent. There are it's not in MBs anymore. It's KBs, bytes, like that. So that's what prod build is. And it performs another operation by the name of AOT, which is ahead of time compilation. So what actually Angular does is it compiles your Angular code ahead of time, even before your application is browsed inside the browser. Here, whatever we have deployed to the Nginx is actually not ahead of time compilation. Inside browser, your Angular code would be compiled. But when you're using minus minus prod flag, by default, it performs ahead of time compilation. That reduces size, one thing, that makes your application fast. And second thing, there is no need to ship Angular compiler library. So there is one library by the name Angular compiler. So this library actually compiles your code inside browser. When you are already compiling your code, there is no need to ship this library to the browser. And this library is huge. So definitely you are counting on it. When you are removing this, your size is actually going to go down drastically. Go to HTML, delete this project meanwhile. Okay, anyway, it's taking a lot of time. So we'll wrap up and eventually this is going to give you a dist folder you try it on your machine and that dist folder can be deployed to Nginx. And this is usually done for productions because your production application performance is a primary concern. In development environment, error-free code is your primary concern. So the concerns are changed. That's why probably you may wanna go with ahead of time compilation in production, not in development. So let me kill this. Some reason it's taking a lot of time. We'll wrap it up. We are actually ahead of time. So let me know if you have any questions or topics so far, whatever we have discussed. We have as many as 5 sessions left. So we'll try to take a session on a Saturday as well and try to complete this course as soon as possible. We have some smaller concepts like lifecycle hooks and directives, change detection, and then unit testing, end-to-end testing. And finally, we'll see how we can set up this project manually without using Angular CLI. Yeah. Thanks, Shashank. If you don't have any questions, let's meet tomorrow then.